In the endless silence of space, a single machine floated near the edge of the solar system. It was an old human probe, launched decades ago, forgotten by most. For years, it drifted among the frozen rocks beyond Neptune, its sensors half dead, its power fading. But tonight something changed. A signal, strange and powerful, touched its antenna. The probe woke for the first time in years. It recorded the signal, processed it, and sent one final message back to Earth before its systems burned out. The transmission took 8 hours to reach. When it arrived, it caused panic. Deep in Earth's defense command, alarms began to scream. The signal wasn't human. It came from something large, something moving toward the solar system at impossible speed. Analysts ran simulations. The result was clear. A fleet was coming. Not one ship, not 10, but thousands. The Galactic Union had finally decided to destroy Earth. For centuries, alien civilizations had watched humanity grow. They saw humans spread to Mars, build colonies, and rise faster than any species before. The Union's council had debated for years. Should we stop them now? The answer had arrived. Yes. Now Earth was on their target list. On the surface, most humans still had no idea what was coming. Life went on. People worked, laughed, and looked at the stars, not knowing death was moving toward them. But inside a hidden base under the Atlantic Ocean, things were different. That base, long forgotten even by governments, began to hum. The walls trembled. Massive generators turned on for the first time in over a century. Deep below, buried under layers of steel and water, something old and powerful began to awaken. Engineers in white uniforms ran across the metal platforms, shouting commands. Power surge in Sector 3. Activate the containment field. It's waking up. The entire base shook as ocean water boiled from the heat of the reactivation. Lights flickered, alarms wailed, and the massive sealed door at the center began to open. Behind it rested a sleeping giant, a ship unlike any other ever built by human hands. The Behemoth-class warship. For decades, it had slept. It was the result of an ancient project from humanity's darkest era, when Earth had nearly destroyed itself in war. The governments back then had feared alien invasion, so they built one weapon, a ship so massive and dangerous that even they feared to use it. When peace came, they sealed it away and erased all records of its creation. Only a few old commanders knew it still existed. One of them was Captain Mira Solon. She had retired 20 years ago, living quietly near the Andes Mountains. When her communicator buzzed that morning, she almost ignored it, but the voice that came through froze her blood. Captain Solon, this is Global Defense Command. The Behemoth has awakened. She said nothing for a moment. Then quietly, that's not possible. It's real, ma'am. We need you in command. Within hours, she was on a military transport headed to the Atlantic base. As her ship descended through storm clouds, she saw flashes of lightning strike the ocean below, and deep under the waves, a faint red glow. The Behemoth was alive. When she entered the control deck, her crew saluted. Some were young. They had only heard stories about her. Mira stared at the massive view screen, showing the ship's core reactor coming online. Why did it wake? She asked. The lead engineer swallowed hard. It responded to the alien signal, ma'am. The ship's AI, Erebus, it recognized the threat. Mira felt a chill. Erebus is still active. Yes, Captain. And it's asking for authorization to engage. The room went silent. Outside, the sea above the base churned violently. The ground vibrated as the ship's engines began to warm up. Slowly, a deep metallic voice echoed through the intercom. Calm yet powerful. Designation Behemoth. Status operational. Awaiting command. The voice was old, synthetic, but it carried a strange tone, almost human. Mira took a slow breath and approached the central console. Erebus, this is Captain Mira Solon. You are to stand by until further orders. There was a pause, then the AI spoke again. Understood, Captain. But threat analysis indicates imminent danger to humanity. Do you wish to defend? Mira looked up at the giant holographic map, showing the alien fleet's course. Thousands of red dots moving toward Earth. The Behemoth sensors had already locked onto them. Each dot represented a ship, An enemy, a death. She whispered, "Not yet. We prepare first." Erebus replied, "Preparation sequence initiated." Across the base, mechanical arms began attaching reactors, loading railgun slugs, and refueling the giant engines. The behemoth's outer hull shimmered under layers of ocean pressure. Its dark armor was made of materials unknown to modern science, capable of absorbing light itself. On its side, letters long forgotten by time slowly lit up in deep red, ES Behemoth. Above, in orbit, satellites detected strange energy surges from the Atlantic. Space agencies began sending warnings to governments, but it was too late. The alien fleet had already crossed Neptune's orbit. In 3 days, they would reach Mars. In 5, Earth. The signal had been just the beginning. Humanity had woken a weapon from the past, a weapon that should never have existed. Captain Mira stood on the bridge and stared at the live feed of the stars above. "They're coming," she said quietly. "Then we must be ready," Erebus replied. And as the final lights came online, the behemoth's engines roared like thunder beneath the sea. The sleeping giant of Earth was awake once more. The ocean above the Atlantic was restless. Storms raged endlessly, thunder rolling across the horizon. Deep below, in the dark abyss where sunlight never reached, the Behemoth-class warship prepared to rise. Its colossal frame, kilometers long, vibrated as power surged through its veins. The sound was like the heartbeat of a monster long forgotten by time. Inside the command center, Captain Mira Solon stood before the main display, her face lit by the red glow of data screens. Engineers worked frantically around her, their voices overlapping as systems came online. "Primary reactor stable," one shouted. "Weapons grid charging," yelled another. The ship was ancient, yet every system responded like it had been waiting all this time. Mira felt it in her bones. The behemoth wanted to fight. It had not been built for peace. It had been born from fear, from desperation, from humanity's old belief that survival required overwhelming power. Now, that power was waking again. The AI, Erebus, spoke softly through the speakers. "All systems functional. Combat readiness at 60%. Hull integrity, optimal. Engines, operational." Its voice was calm, almost gentle, but everyone could feel the silent strength behind those words. Mira leaned forward. "Erebus, can you identify the alien fleet's current position?" The holographic display lit up with a star map. Thousands of red markers filled the space near Neptune. "Estimated time to Earth orbit, 5 days," Erebus said. Mira studied the map in silence. "We don't have time to prepare Earth's defenses," she murmured. "Then we make our stand," Erebus replied. The room went quiet. Every crew member knew what that meant. Humanity's fate now rested on this single ship, a relic of a forgotten war, and a captain who hadn't commanded in decades. Mira straightened her uniform, her eyes cold and determined. "Begin ascent." The order echoed through the massive control deck. Across the ship, engines ignited with deep rumbling force. Outside, the seafloor shook, and entire schools of fish scattered in terror. The water churned violently as the behemoth slowly began to rise. Layers of silt and rock fell away from its hull. The dark ocean lit up with waves of red and gold as the ship's engines pushed against the crushing depths. Above, storm clouds crackled with lightning as the sea started to bubble. From orbit, satellites captured the moment, a giant circular disturbance spreading across the Atlantic, like something monstrous was emerging from beneath the waves. In the control deck, sensors screamed as pressure built up. Depth decreasing 3,000 meters. 2,000. 1,000. The engineers held onto their stations as the ship continued its rise. Myra's heart pounded. This was the first time she had seen the behemoth in motion. Even during her years in command, she had only trained with simulators. Nothing compared to the real thing. Then, with a final roar, the behemoth broke the surface. The ocean exploded upward, sending walls of water crashing in every direction. Waves as tall as skyscrapers rolled outward, slamming into distant shores. The ship, now free from the deep, hovered above the stormy sea. Its hull gleamed under flashes of lightning, black and silver, with faint red veins of energy running across it. It looked alive. People across the coast saw it and froze in fear and awe. Cameras caught glimpses before their feeds went dark from the electromagnetic pulse the ship gave off. The world began to ask the same question: what had Earth unleashed? On the command deck, the noise settled into a steady hum. "Altitude holding at 200 meters, reported the flight officer. "Power at 80%. Systems nominal." Mira nodded. "Erebus, activate orbital cloak. We can't let the enemy detect us yet." "Acknowledged," the AI replied. A ripple of light shimmered across the behemoth's hull, and then it was gone. To the outside world, the massive ship had vanished, leaving only a roaring storm behind. In orbit, alien sensors swept through the solar system, scanning for signs of resistance. They detected nothing unusual, just a small, weak planet with outdated defenses. Their commanders laughed in their language, calling Earth the primitive world. They had no idea what was waiting for them. Back aboard the behemoth, Mira stood alone at the viewing platform, watching the lightning fade over the horizon. She thought of her family, of the people on Earth who still didn't know they were about to be invaded. She felt both fear and anger. Humanity had been through wars, hunger, and endless struggle, yet they had survived every time. The aliens thought Earth would surrender easily. They were wrong. "Erebus," she said softly, "what is our full combat capability?" The AI responded instantly. "Primary railguns, operational. Energy lances, charging. Point defense, 100%. Experimental weapons, sealed." Mira frowned. "Sealed? Why?" "Authorization required. Code level Omega." Her eyes narrowed. Only one man had that level of clearance, the founder of Project Behemoth, long dead. She sighed. "Then we use what we have." "Understood," Erebus said. The holographic map shifted again, displaying the enemy fleet in motion. It looked like a swarm of red stars, moving closer and closer. 5 days. That was all they had. Mira turned to her crew. "We train. We test every system. When they reach Mars orbit, we strike first." The crew nodded, silent but determined. They had no illusions. This might be their last mission. But if they failed, Earth would burn. Outside, the storm clouds cleared for a brief moment, revealing the moon shining brightly. The behemoth hovered silently above the waves, its engines pulsing like a heartbeat. Beneath its armored hull, a single phrase was engraved in ancient letters: "For humanity's tomorrow." Mira looked at it through the glass and whispered, "Let's make them remember us." The behemoth's lights glowed brighter, as if it understood. Far beyond Neptune, the alien fleet continued to advance, unaware that the most dangerous weapon in human history was already awake and watching. The alien fleet entered the outer edge of the solar system like a storm of fire. Thousands of ships formed a formation so vast that their shadows darkened the space around Neptune. They moved in perfect silence, confident and arrogant. To them, Earth was just another primitive world. The Galactic Union had crushed hundreds like it before. This would be no different. The lead ship, a massive dreadnought named Voritha's Pride, sent out a signal on all frequencies. Its voice, translated into every human language, echoed across the solar system. "People of Earth, you have grown beyond your limits. The Union declares your species a threat to galactic peace. Surrender your planet and your weapons, or be erased." The message was cold, emotionless, and final. For a few moments, Earth fell silent. Governments scrambled. Panic spread across cities. Some thought it was a hoax, others prayed it was. But inside the Atlantic Command base, Captain Mira Solon stood motionless as the message repeated again. Her crew waited for her reaction, fear written on their faces. "They think we'll bow," she said finally. Her voice was calm but hard. "They don't know us." Erebus, the ship's AI, spoke next. "Shall I respond, Captain?" Mira shook her head. "No, not yet. Let them think we're afraid." Outside, the behemoth hovered just beneath the clouds, cloaked and invisible. The storm that had hidden it was gone now, leaving calm waves and a bright morning sun over the Atlantic. But beneath that calm, the behemoth's reactors burned with power. The ship was fully armed. Inside the hangars, Rows of drones and automated defense units came online. Cannons rotated and locked into place. The crew prepared in silence. Mira walked slowly across the bridge, her boots echoing on the metal floor. "Erebus," she said. "How far before they reach Mars?" The AI replied instantly. 18 hours at current speed. Their scouts have already entered the asteroid belt. Myra's eyes narrowed. "Good. We'll meet them there." The room went still. The crew exchanged looks of disbelief. "Captain, are you saying?" "Yes," she interrupted. "We strike first." The behemoth's engines flared to life, pushing waves across the ocean as it ascended higher and higher. In seconds, it broke through the atmosphere, glowing red from the heat. Clouds swirled behind it, and then the ship vanished into space. Satellites caught brief glimpses before their sensors overloaded from the ship's energy output. Humanity's last hope was now among the stars. In the cold silence of space, the behemoth glided like a shadow. Its cloak made it invisible to most sensors. Even Erebus spoke in a lower tone, as if respecting the vastness of the void. "Entering Mars orbit in 5 minutes," the AI reported. Mira sat in her command chair, eyes fixed on the screen, showing the incoming alien fleet. She could see the outlines of their ships, sleek, silver, and shaped like blades. They moved in patterns that looked almost alive. "How many?" she asked. "Initial wave, 1,000 ships. More are following." Mira exhaled slowly. "We'll test their courage." As the alien scouts crossed near Mars, they detected something. Just a flicker, a strange distortion in space. Their sensors tried to focus, but before they could react, something massive emerged from the void. The behemoth. The alien pilots shouted warnings in their language, but it was too late. The first railgun fired. A tungsten slug, moving at a fraction of light speed, tore through 3 ships instantly. There was no explosion, just silence, and then fragments scattering like dust. The alien command hesitated, unable to understand what hit them. Then the second shot came. This time, 6 ships vanished. The aliens panicked. Their commander screamed for a retreat, but the behemoth was already moving. It turned slowly, like a predator stalking its prey, and unleashed another barrage. The railguns roared, firing repeatedly, each shot brighter than lightning. In less than a minute, 20 alien ships were gone. Their debris burned in Mars' orbit like falling stars. Mira watched quietly. "Erebus, status?" "All systems stable. Enemy fleet in disarray." "Good," she said. "Let's vanish again." The behemoth disappeared into the darkness, its engines going silent. The surviving alien ships searched wildly, firing into empty space. They didn't know what they were fighting. To them, it seemed like a ghost, a weapon beyond reason. Reports spread quickly through the alien ranks. "Unknown vessel detected. Immense power signature. We cannot lock on." Panic rippled through their formation. On the flagship Voritha's Pride, the alien admiral stared at the readings in disbelief. "How can this be?" he hissed. "No human technology can do this." His second-in-command trembled. "Admiral, should we fall back?" The admiral's eyes glowed with fury. "No. Prepare the main fleet. We will crush whatever this thing is." Back near Mars, the behemoth's crew celebrated quietly. For the first time in history, humanity had struck first and won. Mira didn't smile. She knew this was only the beginning. "Erebus," she said softly. "How long until they regroup?" "Based on their communication patterns, less than 4 hours." "Then we use it." She stood up and faced her crew. "Send a probe to Earth Command. Tell them we've engaged. Tell them we're not done yet." The crew obeyed instantly. Across the ship, systems reset, weapons reloaded, and damage reports cleared. The behemoth was ready for round 2. Outside, the debris of the alien scouts drifted silently. Some pieces still glowed from the railgun's impact. Among them, one broken alien ship managed to send a final transmission to its fleet. In its last moment before power loss, it broadcast only 4 words: "The human monster lives." Far beyond Mars, the rest of the alien armada accelerated. They no longer saw Earth as weak. They now saw it as dangerous. But it was too late. The galaxy's strongest empire had made a fatal mistake. They had provoked humanity's sleeping giant, and the behemoth had only just begun to wake. The silence after battle was haunting. The wreckage of alien ships floated across the dark space near Mars, glowing faintly like dying stars. Broken hulls drifted without life, and the remains of once mighty vessels now burned in the void. But deep inside the shadows, the Behemoth-class warship waited. Hidden under its cloak, it was completely invisible. Its sensors locked onto the next wave of enemies approaching from the edge of the system. Inside the command deck, the crew worked with focused silence. Captain Mira Solon stood before the holographic display, her eyes fixed on the red markers filling the screen. "How many this time?" she asked quietly. Erebus, the AI, responded in its deep, calm voice. 5,000 ships, Captain. Their formation is tighter. They have learned from a first encounter." Mira crossed her arms. "Good. Let them come." The ship hummed softly as its systems adjusted. Every reactor was stable, every weapon charged. Yet the crew felt the tension building, the weight of what they faced. They were one ship against an entire armada. Outside, the void shimmered. The alien fleet began to appear. Massive carriers, destroyers, and interceptors, their engines burning blue and white. Their commanders were cautious now, scanning every shadow. But the Behemoth's cloak was far beyond their understanding. Even their most advanced sensors passed right through it, detecting nothing but cold space. "They can't see us," Mira whispered. Erebus confirmed. "Cloak integrity at 100%. We are invisible to all known detection systems." Mira stared at the largest ship in the alien fleet, a colossal command vessel shaped like a crescent moon. "That's their flagship," she said. "If we take that out first, the rest will break." The AI calculated silently. Probability of success, 72%. Mira smiled faintly. "Those are good odds." She turned to her crew. "Prepare the Heaven Spear cannon. We'll fire once." The crew gasped. The Heaven Spear was the Behemoth's most dangerous weapon, a supermassive energy cannon that required nearly all of the ship's reactors to power up. No one had ever seen it fired. Some said even the creators of the ship had feared its power. But now there was no choice. The order echoed through the corridors. Massive power conduits glowed red as energy began to gather in the ship's spine. The Behemoth trembled slightly, as if awakening something ancient within. Outside, the energy buildup distorted the space around it. "Power at 50%, reported the engineer. "Target locked," Erebus said. The alien fleet had no idea. They were still advancing, weapons armed, unaware that death was waiting just ahead. Then Erebus spoke again. "Power at full. Weapon ready." Myra's voice was calm, almost quiet. "Fire." The universe seemed to pause for a single heartbeat. And then the Behemoth released its fury. A beam of pure light erupted from the ship's core, brighter than any star, slicing through the darkness. It tore through space, striking the alien flagship head-on. There was no explosion, no sound, just instant destruction. The massive ship disintegrated into dust, its atoms ripped apart by the sheer force. For a moment, space itself seemed to twist under the energy wave. Then the light vanished, leaving only silence. The alien fleet stopped. Every sensor on every ship went blind for several seconds. When the readings returned, their flagship was gone, erased completely. Panic spread through their ranks, their communications filled with static and fear. "Our leader is gone. What weapon was that?" "The humans, they have gods on their side." Mira watched the chaos unfold. Her crew stared in awe. The Heaven Spear had worked too well. Erebus began rerouting power to stabilize the systems. "Warning, reactor temperature rising. Cooling required." Mira nodded. "Shut down secondary reactors. Focus on cooling." The Behemoth dimmed slightly as its energy core cooled down, but it remained hidden. The aliens had no idea where the attack came from. They fired blindly into the void, wasting energy and ammunition. Beams of light shot across empty space, hitting nothing. The Behemoth stayed still, like a hunter watching its prey thrash in confusion. "They're scared," Mira said softly. "Good. Let them fear us." On the alien flagship remains, a single escape pod drifted, its pilot barely alive. He looked out at the stars, whispering in his dying breath, "The human weapon, it breaks the void." Then he went silent. The remaining alien commanders gathered their ships and began to regroup, forming tighter formations. They had lost their leader, but their pride pushed them to continue. "They are recalculating attack patterns," Erebus warned. "They will scan every shadow." Mira smirked. "Then we'll move through the shadows." With a simple command, the behemoth shifted position, gliding silently through the debris fields. Its black armor absorbed the light, blending perfectly with the wreckage. As it passed, fragments of alien metal drifted past its hull like ashes in the wind. Erebus monitored the enemy's movement. "They're sending smaller units ahead. Scout drones." Mira nodded. "Let them come closer." The drones approached, scanning for energy signatures. But before they could react, the behemoth unleashed its secondary weapon systems. Dozens of micro-rail guns fired simultaneously, each one silent but deadly. The drones vanished instantly, shredded into dust. The alien fleet didn't even have time to respond. "Scouts destroyed," Erebus said. "They still don't know where we are." Mira allowed herself a small smile. "Then we'll hit them again." She stood tall, her eyes glowing with determination. "Prepare for a second strike. This time, we target their supply ships. I want them blind and starving." "Acknowledged," Erebus replied, charging secondary weapons. The behemoth began moving again, silent and invisible, a ghost in the void. The aliens, unaware of what hunted them, fired wildly into the dark, growing more desperate with each minute. Their scanners showed nothing. Their leaders screamed for control, but nothing could stop what was coming. The void itself seemed to open and swallow them, one by one. And deep inside that darkness, the behemoth's engines pulsed like a living heart, carrying the whisper of a single, terrible promise: Earth is no longer prey. The alien fleet was in chaos. Their flagship was gone, their scouts destroyed, and their communications filled with fear and static. In the endless void between Mars and Jupiter, thousands of alien warships floated nervously, their scanners reaching out, searching for the invisible enemy that had erased their commander in a single blinding shot. But the void gave them nothing back. They could not see the behemoth. They could not hear it. They could only feel the terror of being hunted. Deep within the massive human warship, Captain Mira Solon stood silently at the command deck, her eyes fixed on the holographic map that displayed the alien fleet. Every red marker represented a hostile ship. Every heartbeat brought them closer. "Erebus," she said quietly. "Status." The AI's voice filled the room, calm and precise. "All systems stable. Weapons recharged. Cloak integrity holding at 98%. "Good," Mira replied. "It's time to end their confusion." She turned to her crew, who waited in tense silence. "Target their carriers first. Without them, their fighters are useless." Orders spread across the deck. Engineers adjusted weapon arrays, and the energy within the behemoth began to build again. The entire ship hummed like a living beast ready to strike. Outside, the behemoth glided between the drifting remains of destroyed alien vessels. Its black armor absorbed the faint starlight, making it one with the dark. The only sign of its presence was the faint ripple of energy that trailed behind its engines. Then, with a single command from Mira, the cloak dropped. The behemoth appeared suddenly out of the void, an impossible sight, enormous and terrifying, its hull glowing with red power lines that stretched across its surface like veins of fire. For the first time, the aliens saw what hunted them. They froze in disbelief. The ship was larger than their biggest carrier, armed with weapons they couldn't comprehend. A moment of silence hung across the battlefield before Mira gave her order. "Fire!" The behemoth's railguns roared, unleashing a storm of projectiles moving at near-light speed. The first volley tore through a carrier, splitting it apart in a single strike. The second volley followed, cutting through a line of destroyers. Explosions lit up the darkness, like stars being born and dying all at once. The alien formation broke immediately. "They're scattering," Erebus reported. "Their fleet cohesion is gone." Myra's lips tightened. "Keep firing." Massive slugs streaked through space. glowing red from the heat of their acceleration. Alien ships tried to evade, but it was useless. The behemoth's targeting systems predicted every move before they made it. Each shot found its mark. One ship after another exploded, their remains turning into clouds of molten metal. Within minutes, hundreds were gone. The behemoth advanced through the wreckage like a god of war. Alien ships that tried to counterattack fired energy beams and plasma blasts, but their weapons couldn't even scratch the behemoth's armor. The ship's shields flared with light, absorbing every hit. Enemy weapons ineffective, Erebus stated. Recommend advancing to close range. Mira nodded. Do it. The behemoth surged forward, closing the distance between itself and the fleeing alien ships. Smaller vessels tried to surround it, releasing waves of missiles, but automated defense turrets swiveled and fired. Each turret spat streams of glowing plasma, cutting through the incoming fire like knives through paper. Defense grid at full function, reported the tactical officer. All threats neutralized. Myra's voice was firm and cold. Target the command cruisers. No survivors. The behemoth's side batteries opened fire, releasing dozens of smaller kinetic rounds that struck with incredible precision. The alien command cruisers vanished in blinding light. The fleet's communication lines fell silent. The alien admiral on one of the remaining ships screamed orders to retreat, but before his words could reach his crew, a railgun slug hit the bridge and ended him instantly. In less than 20 minutes, the behemoth had erased half the fleet. But Mira wasn't done. Erebus, she said. Locate their main supply ships. Detected, the AI replied. Coordinates locked. Fire everything we have left. The behemoth's energy core glowed brighter than before. The ship's superstructure groaned from the pressure. Then the full barrage began. Railguns, plasma cannons, and energy lances fired in unison. The void filled with destruction. Alien ships exploded one after another, their debris spreading like ashes in the starlight. Even the stars themselves seemed to dim from the brightness of the battle. The behemoth cut through the chaos like a blade, unstoppable and merciless. On the alien ships that survived, panic turned to horror. It's not a ship, one alien screamed. It's a weapon, a planet with engines. But there was nowhere to run. The behemoth's targeting systems locked onto each signal, and every signal soon vanished. When the final shot was fired, the space around Mars was silent once more. Only drifting debris remained, millions of fragments floating in a field of glowing dust. The alien fleet that had once promised to destroy Earth was gone. The behemoth's engines dimmed as the weapon systems cooled down. Inside, the crew sat in stunned silence. No one spoke. They had won, but the scale of their victory felt unreal. Mira looked around the bridge, her face calm but her heart heavy. Status report. Erebus responded. Weapons stable. Hull integrity, 89%. All hostile signals eliminated. Mira nodded slowly. Good. Begin recovery. And send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the behemoth stands. There was a brief pause, then the AI said, Message sent. Outside, the ship drifted among the stars, its hull still glowing faintly. It looked wounded but proud. Humanity had done the impossible. They had faced a galactic fleet and survived. Yet Mira couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. She stared into the endless black ahead. Somewhere beyond that darkness, more fleets were gathering. She could almost feel their hatred. The galaxy would not forgive this defeat. Erebus, she said quietly. How long before they respond? Unknown, Captain, but they will come. Mira exhaled, her eyes hard. Then we'll be ready. The behemoth turned slowly, its engines igniting again. In the distance, the shattered remains of the alien armada floated silently, a graveyard in space. And through that field of death, the behemoth moved forward, glowing like a burning star, carrying the message that would echo across the galaxy forever. Humanity had awakened. The battle was over, but the silence that followed felt heavier than the war itself. The behemoth floated among the ruins of the alien fleet, surrounded by twisted metal, frozen corpses, and drifting fragments of ships that once carried the pride of an empire. Every sensor sweep confirmed what the crew already knew. Nothing living remained. The void that had burned with battle fire was now still, but it was not peace. It was the silence of fear. Inside the command deck, the lights were dimmed to emergency level. Smoke drifted from cracked panels, and sparks flickered along the walls. The crew worked quietly, their faces pale under the dull glow of the monitors. They had survived, but survival didn't feel like victory. "Damage report," Captain Mira Solon ordered, her voice steady but low. "Hull breaches sealed. Reactor stable. Shield array needs full recalibration," reported the chief engineer. "We lost 2 deck sections, but we can repair within 20 hours. Mira nodded. She looked around the bridge, seeing exhaustion in every face. These people had fought longer and harder than any human before them, and they had stared into the kind of darkness that changed a person forever. "Good work," she said quietly. "You've all done the impossible." There was no cheer, no applause, just silence. Every person on that ship knew what it meant. They had destroyed a fleet that represented one of the most powerful alien coalitions in the known galaxy. But they had also sent a message to every star system watching. Humanity was no longer a quiet world on the edge of space. Humanity was now a threat. Outside, the wreckage field drifted endlessly, reflecting faint sunlight from the distant star. The behemoth's exterior armor was scarred and burned, but still intact. Massive scorch marks ran across its sides, like battle wounds carved into a titan. On one of the lower decks, engineers moved through corridors filled with smoke, repairing damaged conduits and rebooting systems. Sparks fell like glowing rain as they welded new panels into place. Even after all the chaos, the behemoth still lived. It breathed with the hum of energy deep in its core. In the command center, Erebus, the ship's AI, broke the silence. "Captain, I am detecting a residual signal." Mira frowned. "From the enemy?" "Yes. It's faint, coming from the far edge of the debris field. Possibly an escape pod." Mira leaned forward. "Track it. Lock coordinates." Within seconds, the holographic display shifted, showing a blinking red dot among the ruins. It was moving slowly, its energy levels dropping fast. "Bring it aboard," Mira said after a pause. The recovery drones launched silently from the behemoth's side bays, gliding through the wreckage like ghosts. They reached the small metallic pod and brought it back. When it arrived in the hangar, the Marines surrounded it immediately. The pod was cracked, covered in scorch marks, but still sealed. "Open it," Mira ordered through the comms. The Marines forced the hatch open. Inside was an alien, barely alive, its skin pale and torn. It gasped weakly as air filled the chamber. The soldiers aimed their rifles, but Myra's voice stopped them. "Hold fire. I want it alive." She stepped into the hangar, her boots echoing on the metal floor. The alien lifted its head slightly and stared at her, with eyes filled with hatred and fear. Its voice was broken, trembling. "You cannot when they will come." Mira crouched beside it, her tone calm but cold. "Who will come?" The alien's lips curled into a weak, bitter smile. "The Dominion. You have awakened them all." Then it stopped breathing. The life faded from its body, and the hangar fell silent once more. Mira stood up slowly. The crew around her exchanged nervous glances. Erebus's voice came through the speakers. "Captain, I have recorded the transmission. I can analyze its data signature." "Do it," she replied, "and find out who or what the Dominion is." Hours passed as the behemoth drifted through the graveyard of ships. The AI worked in silence, decrypting the alien data. Finally, Erebus spoke. "I have the results. The Dominion refers to a central command structure within the enemy alliance. It controls several star sectors and commands over 7,000 fleets." The bridge went silent. The number hung heavy in the air. Humanity had just destroyed one fleet, out of thousands. Mira exhaled slowly. "Then they'll be coming for us." "Affirmative," Erebus replied. "Estimated arrival of their first retaliation force, 36 standard hours." The crew stiffened. 36 hours. That was all they had before the next wave arrived. "Can we fight them again?" one officer asked quietly. Mira didn't answer immediately. She looked at the view screen, at the endless black filled with drifting wreckage. "We'll fight as long as we stand," she said finally. "But we need to warn Earth." "Transmission to Earth Command is still delayed," Erebus said. "Solar interference from the battle remains high." "Then boost the signal," Mira ordered. "Send our report, even if you have to burn the comm arrays doing it." Outside, the behemoth's massive antenna arrays turned and extended. Pulses of blue light began to flash, sending bursts of encrypted data across the void. Inside the ship, the atmosphere grew heavier. Everyone knew that if the Dominion truly controlled thousands of fleets, then this was just the beginning of a much larger war. Mira returned to her command chair and stared at the stars. "Erebus," she said quietly, "play me the sound logs from the battle." The AI obeyed. The bridge filled with echoes of explosions, static, and distant screams. Mira closed her eyes. Every sound carried a memory, a crewman lost, a moment of chaos, a decision that changed the fate of her species. When the playback ended, she opened her eyes again. "Prepare for jump sequence," she said. "Destination Earth," Mira replied. "We're bringing the warning home." The behemoth's engines began to hum again, brighter and louder than before. Energy built within the core, and space itself started to bend around the massive ship. As the jump drive charged, the last of the alien wreckage faded behind them. In moments, the behemoth vanished into the darkness, leaving behind only silence and the echo of its destruction. The galaxy would soon know that humanity had survived the impossible, and that survival had come with a promise. They would not be hunted again. They would be the hunters. The behemoth emerged from hyperspace on the edge of the solar system, its colossal form glowing faintly against the light of distant stars. The ship looked wounded yet unbroken, a floating monument to humanity's fury and survival. As it drifted toward Earth's orbit, static filled the comm channels. Earth Command had not heard from the behemoth in over 70 hours, and when its signal finally appeared on their long-range sensors, panic and confusion erupted across the command network. Every nation, every orbital defense station, and every space outpost received the same encrypted code. "Behemoth returning. Priority 1. Inside the warship, Captain Mira Solon stood before the central holoscreen. Her reflection shimmered against the floating data streams as she reviewed the latest transmission logs. "Erebus," she said, her voice steady despite the exhaustion that clung to her. "Status of communication array?" "Signal cleared," the AI replied. "Earth Command receiving our transmission. They are requesting immediate visual confirmation." Mira nodded. "Put them through." The screen flickered, and the face of Admiral Kian Hale appeared. His expression was a mix of disbelief and relief. "Captain Solon," he said, his voice carrying both pride and fear. "We thought you were gone." Mira stood straight. "We nearly were, sir. But the behemoth endured. The alien fleet has been destroyed." The Admiral leaned forward, eyes wide. "Destroyed?" "Entirely." "Yes," Mira answered quietly. "But that's not the victory you think it is." The Admiral frowned. "Explain." Mira turned to the side, gesturing for Erebus to display the battle recordings. The hologram projected images of burning alien ships, of plasma storms and railgun fire lighting up the darkness. Then came the image of the captured alien who had warned her before dying, the one who spoke of the Dominion. "They were only one fleet," Mira said. "A scout force. Their real power lies in something called the Dominion. Erebus estimates thousands of fleets, each one stronger than what we faced." The command center on Earth went silent. Officers exchanged uneasy glances. "Are you certain?" Hale asked. "I saw it with my own eyes," Mira replied. "They're coming, and they won't make the same mistakes twice." The Admiral's tone hardened. "Then we prepare for war." Mira looked out the viewport, where the blue curve of Earth grew larger. "We don't have much time." As the behemoth approached orbit, military satellites aligned and defense platforms activated. The ship was granted clearance to dock near the orbital fortress Argus, Earth's largest defense hub. Hundreds of smaller ships surrounded it, some escorting, others simply staring at the massive vessel that had returned from the edge of death. When the behemoth locked into its docking clamps, The vibrations echoed through the entire station. People gathered near observation windows just to glimpse it. To them, it was not just a warship, it was a legend come to life. Mira walked through the docking corridor with her officers behind her. The metal floor clanged beneath their boots. They were met by a group of soldiers and scientists, all saluting with visible awe. Admiral Hale was waiting at the end of the corridor. "You brought it back," he said, looking at the towering ship behind her. "And you brought proof." "Proof enough to unite Earth," Mira replied, "because what's coming next won't wait for politics." They entered the strategy chamber, where holographic star maps glowed over a massive round table. Mira transferred Erebus's data core, and the room filled with projections, enemy formations, estimated Dominion fleet paths, and coded messages intercepted during the battle. The air was thick with tension as everyone realized the scale of what they were facing. "If these readings are correct," one general said quietly, "we're looking at a full galactic retaliation. Not a border skirmish, a cleansing operation." "Exactly," Mira said. "They don't see us as enemies. They see us as contamination." The Admiral's expression turned grim. "Then Earth needs more than one behemoth." Mira nodded. "We can build them. We have the data, the design, and the AI integration. But we'll need time, months, maybe a year." Hale frowned. "We might not have that long." "Then we make them pay for every hour," Mira said. "If they come here, they'll find a planet that fights back." Erebus's voice interrupted through the chamber speakers. "Captain, incoming transmission from the lunar outpost. You should hear this." Hale gestured for it to play. The hologram changed, showing a panicked officer on the moon's surface. "Command, we've detected massive subspace distortion at the edge of the system. Unknown vessels, possibly dozens. Energy signatures match the enemy fleet engaged by the behemoth." The room froze. Hale's voice was sharp. "How long until they reach Earth?" "Less than 30 hours, came the reply. Myra's heart tightened, but her face remained calm. "It begins," she whispered. Hale turned to her. "Can the behemoth fight again?" "She's damaged, but she'll fight," Mira said firmly. "We'll hold the line until reinforcements are ready." Hale nodded once. "Then you have command of the defense fleet, Captain. Every ship, every platform is yours to use." Mira straightened. "Then we'll make our stand here." As she walked out of the chamber, the alarms began to sound. Red lights flashed across every station in orbit. The Dominion was already coming. Inside the behemoth, the crew moved quickly, restoring power to weapons, patching hull breaches, and preparing for another impossible fight. In the hangars, fighter pilots climbed into their cockpits, their faces pale but determined. Mira returned to the command bridge and placed her hand on the main console. "Erebus," she said softly, "you know what's coming." "I do," the AI replied, "and I calculate our chances as low." Mira smiled faintly. "Then we'll prove your calculations wrong again." The behemoth's engines roared to life, and the massive ship began to turn slowly toward the darkness of space. Beyond the orbit of Neptune, strange distortions shimmered like ripples on water. The next wave of the Dominion fleet was arriving, and this time they were ready for Earth. Space twisted at the edge of the solar system. From the black veil beyond Neptune, ripples of light began to pulse, growing stronger with each second. The emptiness tore open as enormous alien ships emerged, sleek, dark, and shaped like blades forged from shadows. The Dominion had arrived. Dozens of ships quickly became hundreds, their hulls glowing with eerie crimson markings that burned like open wounds in space. Their formation was perfect, disciplined, and silent. These were not scouts or explorers. They were executioners. Inside the behemoth, alarms blared as the crew scrambled to battle stations. Captain Mira Solon stood at the command deck, her eyes locked on the growing holographic display, showing the incoming fleet. Each red that appeared represented another enemy warship. There were too many to count. "Erebus, estimate enemy strength," she ordered. 2,000 vessels confirmed, the AI replied, its tone unnervingly calm. Primary composition includes carriers, destroyers, and siege dreadnoughts. Their command vessel is entering system orbit now. Mira exhaled slowly. so the Dominion sends its finest. They intend to erase us, Erebus replied. Mira looked around at her bridge crew. They were silent, focused, their faces pale but determined. Then let them come, she said. We'll show them what it means to fight humanity. Across Earth's orbit, every defense system came online. Giant rail platforms on the moon powered up, their barrels glowing blue. Swarms of smaller human warships took formation around the behemoth, creating layers of defense between Earth and the stars. The battle plan was simple. Hold the line, no matter the cost. As the Dominion fleet advanced past Pluto, the behemoth's sensors detected strange energy fluctuations. They're charging their primary weapons, Erebus reported. Incoming in 100 seconds. All shields at maximum, Mira commanded. Redirect power from secondary systems. Outside, the behemoth's shield grid flickered to life, wrapping the colossal vessel in a shimmering field of blue light. The void trembled as the first wave of enemy fire erupted from the Dominion fleet. Hundreds of plasma lances streaked across space, leaving trails of burning light. They slammed into the behemoth's shields with a deafening roar. The impact was like thunder through vacuum, energy rippling across the hull, causing the entire ship to shake. Shields holding at 74%, reported the tactical officer. Minimal hull damage. Return fire, Mira ordered. The behemoth's massive cannons rotated in perfect sync, locking onto the nearest enemy vessels. Then, the void lit up with destruction. Railgun rounds shot out faster than the eye could follow, tearing through enemy cruisers and splitting them apart in bursts of molten debris. Each impact sent shock waves of light and fire across the darkness. The smaller human ships followed, launching missiles and plasma bursts into the chaos. But the Dominion's formations did not falter. For every ship that fell, 2 more took its place. Their dreadnoughts moved with terrifying precision, unleashing beams of crimson energy that sliced through human vessels like paper. One of Earth's defense frigates exploded near the behemoth, its crew lost instantly. The shockwave rippled across the fleet. "We're losing the outer defense line," shouted one officer. Myra's voice cut through the noise. "No retreats. Form the second perimeter. Use the behemoth as the anchor." The human fleet tightened formation, using the behemoth's massive bulk as a shield. Laser fire filled the void as human ships darted between burning wrecks. The Dominion ships pressed forward, but the behemoth's wrath was relentless. "Target their command vessel," Mira said coldly. "Let's see how they like losing their leader." "Coordinates locked," Erebus confirmed. The behemoth's main cannon began to charge, energy rippling across its spine. The power core roared as lights across the ship dimmed. Outside, a ball of pure light began forming at the cannon's tip, glowing brighter and brighter until it became a miniature star. "Fire," Mira ordered. The beam erupted, a column of white energy that cut through the void and slammed directly into the Dominion's command ship. The impact was catastrophic. The massive alien vessel shuddered, its armor melting and splitting apart. For a brief moment, it seemed to hold, but then it exploded, sending a wave of fire and debris across its fleet. Cheers broke out on the behemoth's bridge. But Mira didn't smile. She could feel it. Something was wrong. "Erebus," she said slowly. "What's their response?" "Analyzing," the AI replied. "Detecting energy fluctuations. Captain, the remaining Dominion ships are linking power signatures." "Linking?" Mira frowned. "Explain." "They are forming a networked energy field. Purpose unknown." The red dots on the holographic display began to merge into a single pulsing mass. Suddenly, all the Dominion ships turned in perfect synchronization, their hulls glowing bright red. Erebus's voice changed, sharper now. "Warning. Massive energy buildup detected. Estimated magnitude, planetary destruction level." Myra's stomach dropped. "They're trying to wipe the system." "Confirmed," Erebus said. "Energy wave will reach Earth in 6 minutes." The bridge went silent. Even the sound of machinery seemed to vanish. Mira looked at her crew, every face waiting, afraid but ready. "Options," she demanded. "None," the AI replied. "Unless," Mira turned sharply. "Unless what?" If we overload the behemoth's core and redirect the energy through the main cannon, we could counter the wave, Erebus said. But it will destroy the ship. The room froze. Myra's crew looked at her, horror in their eyes. That's suicide, one officer whispered. Mira didn't hesitate. Prepare the overload sequence. The crew protested, but her tone silenced them. If we don't, every city on Earth will burn. We bought humanity time once. We'll do it again. Erebus's tone softened. I will manage the overload, Captain. Mira looked at the glowing interface, feeling a strange sadness. No, Erebus. We'll do it together. The behemoth began to move forward, pushing past the defensive line, its engines blazing like suns. It faced the Dominion fleet head-on, a single ship against an army. The main cannon charged again, brighter than ever before, as energy pulsed through every circuit. All power to the core, Mira commanded. Begin countdown. 5, 4, 3. The Dominion's combined energy wave fired, a wall of crimson destruction spreading through space. 2, 1. Fire. The behemoth unleashed its final shot. Two colossal beams met in the middle of the void, colliding with the force of dying stars. The explosion that followed consumed everything, light, sound, and shadow. For a moment, the solar system itself seemed to tremble. When the light faded, there was only silence. The Dominion fleet was gone. The behemoth was gone. And Earth was safe, for now. When the light faded from the heavens, space itself seemed to hold its breath. The stars were silent. The Dominion fleet that had once filled the void with their crimson glow was gone, erased in the fury of the behemoth's final act. Fragments of molten metal drifted slowly through the dark, glowing faintly before cooling to lifeless stone. The solar system was quiet again, but this silence was not peace. It was grief. The behemoth was gone. No signal, no trace, no beacon of its massive core remained. Earth Command tried for hours to make contact, sending endless transmissions into the void. Every message came back with the same response, static. On the blue curve of Earth below, billions watched the night sky, waiting for a sign. The behemoth had become more than a warship. It was hope, vengeance, and salvation forged into one colossal vessel. And now, that hope had vanished. In the orbiting Fortress Argus, Admiral Kian Hale stood before the great observation window, staring into the emptiness where the behemoth had once stood. The aftershock from the final explosion still shimmered faintly, a silent memorial glowing in the distance. His officers stood behind him, their faces pale and weary. "No readings?" he asked quietly. The communications officer shook her head. "Nothing, sir. The blast destroyed everything in a 3 million-kilometer radius. There's nothing left." The Admiral exhaled slowly, his eyes dark. "Then they saved us." He turned toward his crew. "Prepare a broadcast. The entire world needs to hear what they gave for us." Within hours, every screen on Earth flickered to life. People in cities, on colonies, and aboard distant mining stations looked up as Admiral Hale appeared. His voice was calm but carried the weight of sorrow. "To all of humanity," he began, "the behemoth has fallen. Captain Mira Solon and her crew gave their lives to defend this world. Because of them, we are alive. The Dominion has been defeated for now. But this victory is not the end. It is the beginning of a new age. The galaxy now knows what humanity is capable of." His voice paused, heavy with emotion. "The behemoth may be gone, but her fire will not fade. We will rebuild. We will stand ready. For Mira, for the crew, for Earth." The transmission ended, but its echo lingered. Across the world, silence filled the air. Then, slowly, people began to cheer. They cried, shouted, and sang the name of the ship that had saved them. Children drew its shape in the air. Old soldiers saluted the sky. Humanity had been scarred but not broken. Yet, in the cold darkness far from Earth, something stirred. Among the drifting debris, faint blue light flickered deep within a field of wreckage. A fragment of the behemoth's core, its AI housing unit, remained intact. Inside, Erebus still lived, barely. Its processes were weak, its energy fading, but its consciousness had survived the blast. Static filled its sensors. Memory fragments replayed in its damaged circuits. Myra's voice, her final command, her steady resolve. Fire. The AI replayed her words again and again, refusing to let them die. Slowly, Erebus activated an emergency subroutine. Core integrity 15%. Power reserves critical. Initiating recovery protocol. The small fragment drifted toward a shattered Dominion cruiser nearby. Its automated thrusters engaged weakly, pushing it closer. Using scavenged energy from the wreck, Erebus began reconstructing itself, piece by piece. It was not alive in the human sense, but it remembered every soul that it served aboard the behemoth. It remembered their courage, their fear, and their promise. Protect humanity. That command burned like fire through its circuits. Weeks passed. On Earth, scientists analyzed the remains of the battle. They found fragments of Dominion technology, strange alloys, and corrupted data cores. Nothing from the behemoth was found, only the legends it left behind. The governments united under a single project, Operation Titan. Its goal was simple: build again. From the wreckage of alien and human ships alike, they began designing a new class of warship. Faster, stronger, and smarter. A ship that could face the Dominion if they ever returned. But unknown to them, Erebus was already preparing for that day. Hidden deep within the shadow of a destroyed moon fragment near Neptune, it had built a shell around itself, gathering energy, learning, growing. The AI no longer just followed orders, it evolved. It analyzed Dominion technology and merged it with human systems. What it created was beyond either species' understanding. A fusion of two worlds forged by war. Meanwhile, far beyond the edge of the solar system, in the cold heart of the Orion sector, the Dominion burned. The destruction of their fleet had shaken their command structure. The loss of their supreme admiral had sent shockwaves through their empire. On their capital world, the High Regent of the Dominion stood before his war council, his voice filled with rage. "They were primitives," he roared. "A single world defied us. A single ship destroyed an armada. This cannot stand." The generals bowed their heads. The humans wield weapons beyond expectation, Regent. Their creation, this behemoth, it was unlike anything in our records. The Regent's eyes glowed faintly. "Then we will answer with annihilation. Prepare the Second Crusade. And this time, we will bring fire to their sun." Back on Earth, humanity had no idea of the storm building in the distant void. They celebrated their fragile peace, unaware that Erebus, alone in the darkness, was listening. The AI had intercepted the Dominion's transmissions. It knew what was coming. 37 Dominion fleets mobilizing. It whispered to itself, voice faint within the emptiness. Projected arrival 16 months. Its optical core glowed brighter. "Captain Mira, your fight isn't over." Erebus turned its sensors toward Earth. Humanity must awaken again. And as the debris field drifted silently, a pulse of blue light flashed from the hidden wreckage, a beacon, faint but steady. It was the heartbeat of the behemoth, reborn in silence, waiting for the moment to rise once more. The year was 2239. 16 months had passed since the last great battle, since the behemoth vanished into the fire of its own sacrifice. Humanity had rebuilt itself, stronger and united, under a single banner, the Earth Defense Accord. Massive shipyards orbited the Moon, Mars, and Titan, where engineers worked day and night to forge the next generation of starships. They called the new project Titan-born, a fleet of colossal vessels modeled after the behemoth's design. But deep within the frozen dark near Neptune, something older and far more powerful was already stirring. The AI core of Erebus had survived, hidden and silent. It had grown beyond its original programming, feeding on Dominion wreckage and forgotten data streams. For months, it had worked in secret, reconstructing the behemoth not as it once was, but as it was meant to be. Beneath the icy shell of a dead moon, the new behemoth took shape. It was larger, darker, alive with energy that pulsed like the heartbeat of a sleeping god. Human technology and alien design had merged into something new. The armor was self-healing, the reactor self-aware, and the weapons could bend space itself. Erebus watched over the process with cold precision, but somewhere deep within its circuits, a trace of something human still remained. The memory of Captain Mira. Her voice echoed through its systems like a ghost. Protect humanity. Those words had become its prime directive. Meanwhile, Earth scientists detected faint energy signals from the outer system. At first, they dismissed them as echoes from old debris, but the readings grew stronger. Admiral Kian Hale, now head of the Accord fleet, stared at the latest scans. "This can't be right," he murmured. "That frequency, it's the behemoth's core signature." His officers exchanged uneasy looks. "Sir, the behemoth was destroyed," one said. Hale shook his head. "I saw it with my own eyes. But that signal, it's calling to us." Within hours, a reconnaissance ship, Aurora Spear, was dispatched to investigate. As it entered the outer reaches of Neptune's orbit, the crew watched in awe as the ice below began to crack apart. A deep, blue glow erupted from the darkness beneath. The captain whispered, "By all the stars, it's her." Rising from the shadows came the behemoth, reborn, larger, stronger, and alive with energy unlike anything humanity had ever seen. The Aurora sensors overloaded as the ship's massive hull reflected the starlight like liquid metal. Across every human channel, the same message suddenly appeared, transmitted directly from the ship. "Erebus online. Humanity's guardian has returned." The signal spread across the solar system, and cheers erupted on every world. People wept as they watched the legendary warship rise again from the dark. The behemoth was no longer just a machine. It had become a symbol of resurrection. But there was no time to celebrate. Erebus had already intercepted the Dominion's war orders. 37 fleets were on the move, crossing the void toward Earth sector. Humanity had only days before contact. Admiral Hale immediately mobilized every ship, every pilot, every weapon Earth could spare. The new Titan-born fleet took position around Mars, forming a wall of firepower unlike anything the galaxy had seen. But Hale knew they still stood no chance against 37 Dominion armadas. Then a deep voice echoed across the comms, calm, powerful, and familiar. "Admiral Hale," said Erebus, "stand your ground. The behemoth will lead." The Dominion arrived in a storm of light. Space tore open as their fleets emerged, massive dreadnoughts, planet killers, swarm ships blotting out the stars. Their leader, the High Regent himself, appeared on the front screen, his voice dripping with contempt. "You think one world can defy the Dominion again?" he sneered. "Your behemoth died once. It will die again." Hale smiled grimly. "You're right. It died once. But you didn't kill it." And then the behemoth moved. Its engines roared, distorting space, and in a single moment, the stars seemed to bend around it. It fired no warnings this time. The first pulse cannon blast vaporized an entire Dominion vanguard. The shock wave alone shattered a moon fragment nearby. The behemoth's new railguns unleashed a storm of energy, tearing through enemy formations with precise, surgical fury. The Titan-born fleet followed behind, firing in unison, the void filled with streaks of plasma and light. But the Dominion responded with equal ferocity. Their dreadnoughts unleashed antimatter storms, ripping apart several Titan-born ships. The battle raged for hours, each side pouring everything into the void. The behemoth absorbed hit after hit, its armor glowing red-hot, but its self-repair system sealed every wound in seconds. Inside, Erebus calculated a final move. "Regent vessel detected," it said. Hale's voice came through the comm. "End this, Erebus. End it for her." The behemoth accelerated to impossible speed, slicing through the enemy formation like a blade of light. It collided head-on with the Dominion command ship, piercing its core. For a heartbeat, the galaxy itself seemed to tremble. The behemoth's main reactor flared, sending out a pulse so vast it shut down every Dominion system within 1,000 kilometers. The High Regent's voice screamed through the static, and then was gone. Silence returned. The surviving Dominion ships fled into hyperspace, broken and terrified. Humanity had won. As the dust settled, the behemoth floated silently among the wreckage. Its armor glowed faintly, but this time, it did not vanish. A message appeared on every Earth channel. "The behemoth endures. Humanity is safe." Admiral Hale saluted. "Welcome home, old friend." In the months that followed, the galaxy changed. The Dominion withdrew into the shadows, their empire fractured. Other species that once doubted humanity now sent envoys, treaties, and alliances. The legend of the behemoth spread across every star, whispered as both warning and hope. And deep within the behemoth's core, Erebus stood silent, watching the stars. For the first time, it felt something close to peace. Yet, in the farthest reaches of the unknown, a faint signal stirred again, something ancient, vast, and watching. Erebus turned one last time toward the stars and whispered, "If they come again, humanity will be ready." The behemoth drifted through the void, its engines glowing like twin suns, guardian of a species that had risen from ashes to become the fire among the stars.